Hi, Dr. Matt Prince on point. And so we're going to talk about the three, I think, powerful verses to me, and what I believe will be to you about marriage. The first verse, for this reason, the Bible says, for this reason a man should leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. And it could be reinterpreted as, for this reason, a married person, should leave their mother and father and cleave to their spouse. Now that means you're supposed to leave that mindset and it goes back like what Paul was saying. When I was a child, I thought like a child, but when I became a man, I set aside those childish ways. You're supposed to leave that mindset when you're married. You're supposed to leave that mindset of being in your mother and father house. Yes, you're supposed to respect your mother and father for raising you and giving birth to you and doing for you. But you're not supposed to bring that mindset into a marriage. You're supposed to bring a different mindset in the marriage. Because that's why I said for this reason you leave your mother and father, which means leave that ideal that that was your birth family, but your family with your spouse is now the family. And you're supposed to put your spouse before first, after God comes first, then comes your spouse. And that's the way it's always supposed to be in decisions and every decisions and every thought and everything. That's how your mind's supposed to work. See, when you was in your mother and father house, it was, oh, I better ask my mom, I better ask my dad. This one, you better ask God. And if it's and on certain things, you after God, you better ask your spouse. That's the way it's supposed to work. Leave that mindset and leave that childish idea of that childishness of saying, "Oh, mother and father, you gotta mature and go God first." And that's another thing the Lord reminded me why we have mother and father. That's why Moses said, "Honor your mother and father," because it says a commandment with promise. Um, because God gave us mother and father to teach us the basics first. If we can't obey our mother and father, how can we obey God? Because God is bigger than our mother and father, and He does more than our mother and father. That's why we have mother and father to teach us the way and show us the way, and show us how to fear God and reverence Him. Now we're going back. Another verse is what God put together, let no man put asunder. Jesus said that. What God put together, let no man asunder. So God saying all these ideas where people say, well, that's it, you made me mad, so I'm gonna do this. I've been through that. I did stuff where you made you mad, oh, I'm gonna do this. God said, you're supposed to pray and say, Lord, what shall I do? Like that song from Tremaine Hawkins, what shall I do? You're supposed to be like, what shall I do? And I think the prophets pray that. I don't know, David, that's why I believe that song does have a biblical base with that. What shall I do? Because you're supposed to pray unceasingly. Pray first. That's part of being in a godly marriage, just praying. That's why I said, well, God put together, let no man put asunder. So if God put you together, pray that God be the head and that God direct you and guide you. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to act this up. Satan wants you to go on your emotion. Be like, I'm mad, so I'm going to do this. Oh, you made me afraid, so I don't know. Oh, I'm worried. I'm doubting. Oh, I'm jealous of this person, so I'm going to take that person. And then the last verse, and don't be afraid to do that in the Bible. I learned that from reading the Bible. When it comes to the blessings and when it comes to the promises of God, don't be afraid of personalizing it. That's why I personalize this in my prayer all the time when I pray for my marriage. No weapon formed against us shall prosper, and every tongue that rises up against us shall be condemned. For this reason, a man should leave his mother and father. For this is the, for this is the, for this is the inheritance of the righteous. Isaiah said that for Israel and for the Israel. And you could personalize that for yourself, the blessing and promises of the Bible. That's because that's a part of being saved. That's a part of being brought by a price that you could personalize the promises of the Bible. Because God promised that those promises, because of Abraham and because Jesus died on the cross, we could personalize the Bible, the promises of the Bible, and the blessings of the Bible.